Today on Living History, we are speaking with William D. Frazier.
But at the same time, it was, as far as manufacturing, it was very noticeable. I didn't know what I was doing. And the person that worked in that company was a Chinese woman, mentored me and said, I will teach you how to do business in China if you teach me how to understand American market.
Today we're speaking with William D. Frazier, who came to China as a student in 2000, then became an employee, and eventually struck out on his own. He's a foreigner who didn't smoke or drink at a time when that was just what everybody else did to break the ice in business. And yet, William still managed to build a successful import-export business in China. About cultural exchange when doing business in China, the great importance of Southern chivalry, and the many memories collected along the way we're hoped to talk about today. William Frazier, welcome.
Great to be here. Great to be here. That's pretty much cover my beginning here. I came on a study abroad program back in 2000, and that was really the eye-opening experience as far as coming to China for the very, very first time. You know, I come from a small southeast coastal town in Georgia named Brunswick, and growing up as a kid, my only exposure to Chinese people was either through a Bruce Lee movie, which is on the big screen, of course, and local restaurants. And that was it. That was my exposure to Chinese people until I got to college. That's my only interaction. But there's one part about China that I did not know. There's a lot of things about China I did not know when I first came. And you mentioned that, the smoking, the drinking, but I didn't realize pork is the main meat here, and I don't eat pork. So there was a lot of adjustments I had to do as far as those three areas, because if not three, at least one of those items is going to be in front of you on a daily basis. So yeah. People ask me, normally, why are you here? Why you live here? What am I doing here? And after so many years, it was the import-export was the business that came later on during my time here. But the beginning was the study abroad program, and then going into becoming a student, one of the first foreign students in 2002. So there were not many people like me here. Honestly, they were not. Kind of strange. Everybody thought I was Michael Jordan because I had a bald head. And they thought I could play basketball. I play basketball, but I cannot play basketball. That's not the issue. But it was just that it was always this interest of people looking at me, which I really didn't understood. I really understand at that time. Being I'm from where I'm from, if you look at someone, you get eye contact and then you speak. Either I'm speaking, but not knowing the language that well, but your next gesture you do, you wave. Acknowledging that I see you looking at me, so I acknowledge you as a person. And it was very rare that someone would respond back. And I just thought that was, somewhat rude. But I'm like, why are you looking at me? And I'm speaking to you and you're not speaking back, but, And then, so I developed that mannerism. I figured, okay, this is how things are done. So you just sometimes you give that cold, stoned face, in a sense, you just look. And I just started doing that. So when people look at me, I just look back. So okay, I'm mimicking you, because I figured that's the way you're communicating. It wasn't an insult to them at all, just becoming more culturally aware of what was going on over here. And also, I had to immediately shed some of those Western mannerisms.
Like what?
Thinking that that there were a lot of gay people here.
How so?
Because you would see women walking arm in arm And you didn't see that in the West unless they was intimate or had a personal relationship, but that is a sign of friendship. I realized, I'm like, God, these women are really into each other, so, but I realized that that's friendship. That's the way people interact. That's the way people interact. So I hate to say that part, but that was one part. But I learned it at first because I asked that question: Are they lovers? And no. Okay, fine. But it was one incident that really made me get away from that Western mentality of being here. I think I was here like maybe 3 weeks. I was going to Shanghai Normal University, Shanghai Shifan Dashway, walking on the road. I heard these feet running behind me. So people were running behind me. Somebody was running behind me. So normally if you hear people running, you look around to see if anybody else is running. And I didn't notice anybody running. And this was like within 10 seconds. It's a very quick moment though. And I thought to myself, oh my God, this is it. Somebody's gonna hit me in the head. Here I'm a foreign black guy walking down the street. Somebody's going to come and attack me because I hear somebody running behind me. So I tensed up. I'm walking, but I'm getting very tense. So I clench my fist. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to smack this person that's coming behind me. I'm going to turn around, I'm going to throw a punch. And as I was getting ready to turn around, this lady ran right past me. And she ran and got on the bus. And I said to myself, oh my God, I am not in the US anymore. I'm in China and I'm safe. And that was my wake-up call, that I was actually in a safe environment. And then I thought to myself, I better run and get on this bus too. Because if I don't get on this bus, I'm gonna, miss it. So you had that, I saw that a lot, people running to catch the bus. And I realized, why are these people running to catch the bus? Because it was a long time between the next bus to take you where you need to go. And, it wasn't many metro lines here and you didn't have a private car, so you had to learn how to do these things. And so I started riding buses because I wanted to know how to move around the city. I could walk, I could have a bicycle, but they're going to take you so far. And by getting on the bus, it has a beginning point, it has an ending point, and you get to ride around the city and see what is where, and that was me learning the layout of Shanghai. So I would just periodically get on a bus and just take me wherever you're going to take me. And I just get off and remember the spot where I got off, okay, I got to remember this landmark. So when I get back on it, take me somewhere else. And so that's how I became very curious about the city, about this country. But the curiosity actually started when I came here. Plane is on the tarmac, flying into Pudong Airport. It's only T1. You could just imagine, you're coming out of the plane, you're on the tarmac, you're on the top, coming out of the door, and no idea why I said that. It's just like I came out of the door like I'm some kind of royalty person or some famous whatever. And I just stepped out, didn't go down, just stepped out and looked at it and said, I'm going to live here. And it felt natural. It felt natural. Being here, it feels like, maybe in the past part of me is Chinese. I don't know. Some people say you have Chinese. I don't have no idea what that means. Oh, you have Chinese, William. You've been here so long, you have Chinese. Okay, cool. It's just that I always keep that student mentality because I came here as a student. And also about my upbringing, I know that I'm a guest here. This is someone else's home. So I have to be respectful to how they run their home. This is my home, this is your home. So I have to learn how you do things and adjust my ways of adjusting to your lifestyle, not trying to get you to adjust to my previous lifestyle, whatever have you, because it's not going to work. It's not going to work that way. And that was it. And as I just continuously stay here and being here, I treat it like a classroom. I treat it like a classroom because I always very curious about this place. I can remember my first spring festival here. And I kept hearing about Spring Festival. I kept hearing about this big celebration. It kind of remind you of Thanksgiving and Christmas all rolled up into one and all these things. I'm like, wow, I got to experience that. I want to be here to experience that. Man, that was the loneliest time of my time. That's the loneliest time of my life. I swear. Everybody left. Everybody went home. Everybody I knew went home. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck here. I have no idea what to do. You know, and then other people came from other places and came back to Shanghai. So they're with their family. They're all doing their family thing. Everybody's at home or going places. So they're doing it as a unit. And I'm like, I have no idea what the hell am I doing now, you know. That was lonely. It was rough. It was rough because I had this image. Again, I had this image of what I thought it would be. And initially at that time period, it wasn't. But I was prepared for the second one. People had gotten to know me. So they would invite me to their home.
Where did you go?
Where did I go for my first one? I think it was probably still in Shanghai. There's been so many of them. I don't know if I went to, I think it probably was in Shanghai. So yeah, a lot of drinking going on, a lot of smoking going on, and a lot of eating pork going on. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the meals that people were preparing, but at the same time, I'm please let them know I don't eat pork. You know, I don't eat pork. But it was beef, chicken. But you had to watch because some of the vegetables that they had fried had pork in it. So I ate a lot of bread. I obviously ate a lot of chicken and beef, but it was it was not the what I was accustomed. Obviously, I wasn't accustomed to because I never actually participated in a family event like that before. But the atmosphere was very nice. The fireworks was so pleasant, and I still wondering why everybody's sitting down watching TV. That blew my mind. I'm like, everybody watching TV, and I have no idea what they're watching. I see it, but I don't understand it, and so. I had to adjust to it, but it was a training ground. I had to understand what was going on to appreciate it more. I appreciate it more now after all the years of doing different Spring Festival activity. But during that time period, it was adjustments. A lot of adjustments I had to do, and being with friends, and it was a challenge because I mainly. Really surrounded myself with local people. When I say local people, Chinese people, okay? I didn't know if you're from Shanghai, fine. I don't care. If you're from Hangzhou, fine. You're from Suzhou, fine. I don't care, But, it was that because it was not that many foreigners over here at my level, at what I was doing. Even though you had a lot of executive level foreigners, they had their own group. Here I am, a guy that came over here on his own. I sponsored my own self. I had to, figure out a way to get a place to stay, make money, feed myself. So that was, and again, there were no foreigners with me to help guide me, mentor me in that aspect. So I had to learn everything from local people. And I was very, very grateful to that, to this very day.
Yeah.
Yeah, to this very day. I learned about this place from a lot of people.
Tell me about the days when you started your business. You got your import-export license. Tell me about how that came about.
Oh, God, I wish I had it right here. I could show you what actually I had, the item that we made. So anyway, I'm over here and people back in the States asking me, what can they get in China? And I'm like, what is it that you want in China? What can you get in China? What do you want? And so somebody approached me to make some fraternity items. And one of the first items I was making was a flag. That was a time that, having a flag, people going to homecoming like American football games, going back to college, having a flag flying outside their car, having a flag inside your house of different organizations. And so I found this company in Pudong. That was really, really shocking to me because I didn't know anything about manufacturing. Honestly, I didn't at that point. Never done it a day in my life. But when I went there, I saw the beginning of how manufacturing would be done as far as when you come down to printing on textile. And they had like this manual, the painting, the print out, and they take the machine and going across. Not the machine, but manually sliding it across with the wooden plates and all that, sliding it across. And the conditions was really very bad comparing to now, working conditions. Because you're dealing with a lot of environmental issues, because you have that drainage, that dye that's coming off of the paint, off of the textile, and it's just draining wherever it goes. There was no real drain system to recycle that waste. You had people that was breathing in that chemical all day long. They wasn't wearing masks. You're talking about early 2000s, okay? Okay, there was no mask, right? You're talking about there was no ventilation systems inside the factories. You had old fans back in the day, those old plow fans that we call them instead, big fans in the wall, but there was no, vent that's going to suck the air out of the location. So you're going into these environments and you smell the chemicals coming in. I'm thinking to myself, God, this is really rough work, But at the same time, it was very noticeable that I didn't know what I was doing as far as manufacturing. It was very noticeable I didn't know what I was doing. And the person that worked in that company, was a Chinese woman, mentored me and said, this is how you should do business in China.
So you went to the factory.
I went to the factory.
You tried to buy some flags, and she figured out you didn't
know what I'm doing.
Tell me that story.
It was like, this is one of the things that, you don't have a contract. You didn't stipulate the terms of how many flags you want, how soon they should be delivered, if they're not delivered this time, what happens. You didn't specify how you wanted the flag to be packaged. You didn't talk about how you wanted to be labeled, the shipping marks on the cartons, how many pieces should be in a carton, how you want it shipped. You don't know about the codes of the HS code, what's the duty taxes and all. It's all that basic stuff that you didn't know. Because all I said, I just want flags. I have this picture and I want to make flags. That's all I had. A picture and say, I want to make flags. What size flags you want? Do you want eyes on it? I'm like, yeah, I have eyes right here. But no, the eyes with the holes, for the connected. And do you want the pip on it, the trimming of it? What weight of the material that you want? Do you want double-sided print, single-sided print? Well, you want them polyester, what percent polyester, nylon, all that type of stuff. I have no concept at all about what's required when you start manufacturing. And she pretty much took me on my wing and said, okay, I will teach you how to do business in China if you teach me how to understand American market.
Oh, so you guys were able to help each other.
Yeah.
How old was she?
Maybe 2 years out of college. I started doing like maybe 2004, okay? And I was already doing some crazy stuff that you couldn't do as a student back then that you are allowed to do now, But I had to hustle. I had to hustle. And so I did that and was able to get the items shipped out. So we decided to apply for our own export license. And that was back in, 2005. And they was like just giving out export license like it was nothing. Like you want an export license, sign up for it, get it. What items you want to export. And we went across the gamut on everything. One thing I say, no military equipment, no airplanes. But pretty much everything else is on, pretty much everything else. You can name it, I probably have the rights to export it. And didn't know that was necessary, right? So we started doing that, and then we opened the business, opened the Shanghai America Direct Import-Export Company. We opened that and had a lot of employees. But that's when that part of me had to switch about to training, because you had a lot of young people coming, because everybody was coming to Shanghai. Everybody was going to major cities, but a lot of people were coming to Shanghai because the opportunities were here as far as getting a good job, growing in business, whatever, and everybody started coming here. So we found a lot of young people. You had a lot of people here bringing a lot of information, a lot of technology on how to make things. So if you got all of that in one area, it's only common sense that somebody's going to be able to figure out they like this here, so we're going to make something that nobody else has made, because we have the information, the technology, and the resources to create, because you actually train people on how to do that. The world actually trained Chinese people to be very innovative. And not saying they were not innovative at that time, but it doesn't, it's just that the innovation, you could see that it was going to happen here. I could see it at that time, like, all this, because you had everybody here. You had a lot of cultures here. So you had everybody here learning from everybody. And you just had that stone face. And it's not being disrespectful, but that face was just absorbing information. So I understood that look when I first got here. I waved, but they wouldn't wave back. So I understood, I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to listen and learn and just listen and learn and listen and learn. To the point where we had employees that figured out what we were doing, and they went and started their own business. And I was like, I can't be mad at that. And the individuals that were doing it were females. The Chinese women, they were, and they have no more than maybe 2 years out of college. Maybe 2 years out of college, they got here and started these very, very creative industries that are very sustainable right now to this very day. And I'm like, this is some wild stuff. This is some really wild stuff. That these women are actually creating their own identity, making their own pathways. And I'm not just saying it just to be saying it, but I witness it, I witness it. And when I travel and go to factories, it's always, okay, you may have the male boss or whatever, a male husband, whatever, you may have that. But the person that's always, for me, the person that's making the decision is actually the woman. She has a very important role in how things are going to work, how things should go. As well as most of them spoke English, and so it's very easily to communicate with them, and they will understand, like, okay, William doesn't smoke, William doesn't drink. Oh, he's a good man. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I'm a good man. Oh, you're a good man. You don't go out and get drunk and you don't smoke, so we don't have to worry about you making poor decisions. I think that's what it meant. I don't know. But also, I don't eat pork, so remember, I don't eat pork. I tell them that. Oh, sure, well, no problem. No problem, I don't eat pork. But it was just this constant learning about life here. And this no disrespect to men, okay? But I think men, in a sense, are pretty much the same across the board in an aspect.
You told me about how women here in China were very good at understanding how you ticked, how to make you comfortable. But how did you make them comfortable? How did you make them want to do business with you? How did you make them like you?
I come from the women here, I guess, I come from a large family. I'm the last of 14 children. And I spent a good portion of my youth growing up on a farm. We learned to be respectful to women. That's the bottom line. We just learned how to be respectful to women. If you're getting out of the car, open the door for a woman. You walk in a room, you don't sit down until a woman sits down. You know, you don't do that. You help a woman with a coat. These small things, you know, don't hit a woman. All these small things are the kid growing up, and I just came here with that. So, you know, like when I go to their office, you know, they want to open the door first, right? They will open the door first, but I would stand like, you know, you go in first. You know, I'm gonna hold the door for you. Or they would stand up and then or a woman would come into the office and I would immediately get up. You know, and I wait till she sit down or I say thank you. And I just be just being me, you know. And I think that they were receptive to that. You know, I don't think that they saw that I'm kind of funny too. They say I'm kind of funny. You know, I crack a joke every now and then. I do humorous and silly stuff. And then, you know, by habit, by their culture, you know, they're covering their mouth, you know. But, you know, it was a very bad habit. Not to me, okay? That was something I saw and I was like, you know, why you cover your mouth? Oh, that's tradition, our culture. I'm like, well, I think you have a very beautiful smile. Can I see your smile? You know, no, okay, all right. That's just it. And just making each other feel comfortable and appreciate it. And I think we have to fight challenges, I guess. You know, me being a foreigner and they being who they are, just different. We have different challenges we have to face when we're trying to prove ourselves in a male-dominated industry or in society. And so we just keep going at it.
What were the challenges that you saw them facing that you could identify with?
Some of the challenges I see them facing is convincing others that they could do the work. It's challenging, especially back then. It's probably still challenging right now, even more so. So it's very challenging for some of them because of their traditional values, the way they're raised, that they want to do their own thing. But at that time, society kind of made it complicated for them to do it. Some succumb to it, but others, they own companies and are very successful at it. But it's a lot of hard work for them as well, because not only they're the general managers, they have to be the marketing person, they have to be the salesperson, they have to be the spokesperson. And what I mean about that is they have to travel to the other foreign countries because a lot of people were traveling. At that time, you didn't have many Chinese people that had passports. But as the industry's business started getting bigger and bigger, and there were a lot of trade shows in other countries, naturally, they had to travel to those other countries to promote their business. So they had to go to a lot of countries to do trade shows, and here they are traveling over there, being, you know, the marketing person, being the salesperson, being the spokesperson for their business. And it's very demanding at that time period, especially when English is the fallback language, you know, on the scene, but not as much as it is now. But back then, it's the fallback language when you're trying to negotiate and trying to get orders and trying to convince that people should trust you and trust your business to deliver what you say you could deliver. So yes, it's very challenging.
Do you guys go together on trips like that?
Yes, I spent a lot of time traveling. Oh my God. I think America probably was one of the most challenging, interesting places that I went to do a trade show. And it still is an interesting place for trade shows, especially coming from here. It was times that you could feel that the resentment, or not the resentment, that I am here I am, I'm in America, here I am, a black guy in America, here I am representing a Chinese company that's telling other people to do business with me. How is it possible that a black man that doesn't work for a corporation has a Chinese company, working with a Chinese company that comes to America to tell other people to do business with them? That's a very rare step. And coming from the South, I could see it. You know, just you can see it and you can feel it. And then you turn around and have a Chinese woman. You don't have a Chinese male and you don't have a white male that's representing this company to say, come do business with us. You don't have that. So that is the challenge in of itself when we recognize that. But it was just not just doing it in America. You had to go to other places. You had to go like Southeast Asia. You had to go to like Dubai and Middle East. When Dubai was really growing at that time period. You know, those matriarch type countries, you know, it's very hard to get that convey that type of message across to them. But it worked out. It worked out. And the longevity of it all is that we were in it for, because we knew that this is going to be a very challenging process, but we didn't know how challenging it was going to be, and to get through all of that. Because when I finally moved over here, it was like in 2002, and the thing that happened in 2002 was SARS, and I stayed. And at the same time, you know, I was like riding the bus, because that's when I was like riding and the buses were not that filled up. People were not, you know, even though they were cleaning the buses, but everything was not shut down when like COVID. But you could still move around, you still have masks, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't totally shut down. And so when COVID happened, I was like, okay, I seen this before, you know. I seen it on a smaller scale. So when SARS, so go back to the SARS part, that's when people start, you know, oh, be careful, China got SARS, you know, all the, be careful, don't do anything over this very bad, don't come back to America. You know, people telling me, don't come back to America, you got that SARS and all that stuff. I'm like, you know, I really didn't have any intention to come back, whether SARS is here or not. For me, when I came, it was like, nobody believed it. No one believed it. It had to be something that actually happened that triggered me to say, okay, I had enough. And again, I had a good job. I had a good local job, economic development planner for the city, for the city of Savannah. I had a good job. It was not like I didn't have a good job. I had a good career path. And after, you know, coming to China for the study abroad in 2000, then I came back in 2001. And I attended what's called the World Planning Congress that was at Tongji University. And I met this professor, and I'm completing my master's in urban studies. And he asked me, what are you researching? What is your work? And prior to that decision, I had told my faculty advisor that I did not want to write on anything about the U.S. For some reason, I said, I don't want to write on anything about the U.S. I don't want to write no urban study, no economic development plan about the U.S. I just didn't want to do it because I felt like it was useless. Everybody did that. But when I came and they asked me what I wanted to write about, I said, I want to write about the role of migrant workers in the economic development of China. And they just looked at me, what? I said, yeah, I want the role of migrant workers in the economic development of China. And they said, why that? I said, because these migrant workers and what happened with the Great Depression, the Great Migration. The Great Migration is a time period in the U.S. from the 1920s to the 1970s when a lot of black folks left the South and migrated to the North, to the industrial North, to help build up the Industrial Revolution in the U.S., to build that phase. And I saw a lot of migrant workers coming from the countryside, coming to the city to build up China. And I saw that comparison, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. And that's what I did my research on. And that professor told me, said, once you finish, you should come back here and study for your PhD in China. And I did. I came back, I enrolled in Tongji from 2002 to 2005. Crazy story. 2002, 2005, wrote my dissertation. Did not defend it. The same person walked up to me and said, William, you want to learn how to do business in China? And boom, here I am doing business, forgot about my dissertation. And that's the story of how I ended up here. But I ended up here because of 9/11. I ended up here because of 9/11. 9/11, I was going to work in the office. The boss called and said, turn on the TV. We turned on the television and we saw the second plane going to the tower. And it probably, I thought it was a movie. I was like, this is crazy. And for some reason, I sat down and I sent that professor an email. I said, is that opportunity still available to study for my PhD in China? And he said, yes. And I was here in February. So from September to February, that's just how fast I moved to China. And during that whole process of moving here, people are like, you're not going to do that. 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 Started selling everything, you know, everything I could possibly sell, getting rid of it. You're not going to do that. And boom, gone. First couple of years, when you coming back home? Now when I go back home, how long are you going to be here? The subject matter has changed. It's not when you're coming back, it's about how long you're going to be here because they know I'm not going to stay. They know I'm not going to stay. Oh, back in America, prior to leaving, you know, when I told them I was moving to China, they were asking me, why are you moving to a poor country like China when you have a good job and career here in America? And my response was, that's a better opportunity out there for me than what's going on here in America.